Mantale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta, Swaminiti Namane, Namaste Sarasvati Deve, Gauravani Pacharane, Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskita Deshatarane. Hare Krishna. So it's a great thrill, pleasure, happiness for me to be here. This is a very important place. I think we had a mic stand earlier that didn't do this, so if someone can find that. I'm going to read a very important verse from the Bhagavad Gita, from the 9th chapter, the most confidential knowledge, and this describes our, let's say, mood as followers of Srila Prabhupada. This verse very much describes him, and Krishna is speaking this in the Bhagavad Gita some 5,000 years earlier, but the determination and the dedication and the incredible devotion that His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada demonstrated, he certainly fits this description. And Srila Prabhupada, he described in the preface to his Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, part 1, he lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. So, the be-all and end-all of the devotee, the disciple's life, is to completely adopt the mood and understand the inner heart of the spiritual master. This one is also problematic. Someone needs to take a screwdriver and, temple maintenance. I'm going to just have to hold it, that's all. So Srila Prabhupada was extremely determined to fulfill the order of his spiritual master, and he underwent very great difficulty and inconvenience that arguably any and all of us would say would quite reasonably be too much for us to tolerate or put up with. In New York City, we all know the history that Srila Prabhupada came there on a 5-week freight boat crossing. He's in Bombay at the steamship Scindia Line. You have to take a screwdriver and I'll just hold it, it's okay. So the ship was leaving from Calcutta. So what did he have to do to begin the journey? He had to take a cross-India country train from Bombay to Calcutta. How many hours does that take? Something like 36 to 48 hours. And this is in 1965, okay? And then in Calcutta, so he finally gets on the boat, and it sails all the way around India and finally enters the Arabian Sea just after Bombay. It's kind of, why did he, that was the route. This is the one that I just had.
We just tightened it.
You just tightened it? Okay, let's go. God gave me 2 hands, so.
Sorry.
Okay, now this is the problem.
We just tightened it up. So
Okay.
no. This is tightened up. We just tightened it up.
You haven't noticed this on a regular daily basis? Okay, let's see. Arabian Sea, Red Sea, Suez Canal, Mediterranean Sea, and September is hurricane season from the Caribbean going up the Atlantic Ocean. that's when, like New York, they had 12 years ago Hurricane Sandy, and all the subway tunnels flooded, and we were doing Harinam. I was staying in the Bhakti Center at that time, and all the lights from 39th Street all the way to the bottom of Manhattan were out for 3 days. So we would, and Harinam Ruchi, they were just starting, and they happened to be there, and as long as there's no place to go, let's go on Harinam, let's go on. So their ticket was canceled or whatever, so they stayed with me for like a week, and we just walk from the East Village all the way to Times Square, and we were doing Harinam every day. Anyway, this is a side note. And anyway, on the third day, because the East Village, there's lots of bars and restaurants, and nobody has anything to do but in a blackout, but just hang out. And we were walking the Harinam up to Times Square just at dusk, and all of a sudden the lights came back on. And everybody came out of the bars and restaurants. They were like praising us like great mystics and saints. You guys did it! You made the lights turn back on! Hooray! So anyway, so Prabhupada writes, and Captain Pandya and his wife said, this is the smoothest Atlantic crossing we've ever experienced. And Prabhupada, who had already suffered 2 heart attacks, I believe in the Red Sea, said that if the Atlantic, because it's hurricane season, had shown its usual face, perhaps I would have passed away. But Lord Krishna has taken charge of the ship. So then, Prabhupada says, when I got to the dock, which is actually the New York Temple now is in downtown Brooklyn, and it's very near to what was, well, it's still called 17th Street, but at that time it was a pier. And now on that site is a Home Depot. Back home, back to God. So we'll go on the Prabhupada, 2 days after he landed in Boston. I didn't know whether to turn left or right, but his host, Mr. Agarwal, in Butler, Pennsylvania, which is in the news, actually, there's a very, okay, I don't want to branch off too much, but Donald Trump was responsible for allowing the 1976 New York Rath Yatra to take place. They had gotten, miraculously, the permit, which had been shut down in the mid-1960s by the mayor at the time. No new parades on Fifth Avenue. So the devotees, Tulsan Krishna in particular, secured the permit. And Prabhupada asked him when he came to New York, how did you do it? Well, I wrote on the application what is going to be the parade, 3 hand-pulled carts. It didn't say, they didn't ask what was this, hand-pulled carts? It must be pretty small. And Prabhupada just laughed and said, yes, that is in our line. Just like Lord Vamanadev. He asked for only 3 paces of land to the measurement of his steps. Right? If you walk 3 steps, however tall you are, that'll be enough for you to sleep on the floor. You can live your life, everything good. But with 2 steps, he took everything. Where will I put on my head? Bali Maharaj, Atmanivedana. So yes, that is in our line. So where are you going to build these chariots? They just moved to West 55th Street, which is, on the Upper West Side, near to where Prabhupada was living for the first 6 months of his stay on 72nd Street. And, everybody who owned property around there was like, no way, forget this, And then Donald Trump, who was 30 years old at the time, had just acquired these Hudson Yard properties, and they went to his secretaries in office, and he said, there's no way he's going to, agree to this. He's going to say no. So, well, anyway, so they brought like a care package, like all kinds of fancy prasadam, flower garland, and they wrote a letter. And Donald Trump read it and said, sure, no problem. They can do it free. Just pay like a few $100s, whatever, the insurance or something. Because he had been to 26 2nd Avenue 10 years earlier. And according to Gargamuni, younger brother of Brahmananda Prabhu, said he was there during that time and he liked what he saw. That could have included seeing Srila Prabhupada, so he had a very good impression. So he gave, and the secretary, I'm just amazed that he's doing this. And the devotees lived on that site for like a month and a half building the carts. I mean, living there, taking care of bodily ablutions in the bushes and just everything, garbage all over. And Prabhupada walked on that property. So anyway, I don't want to get too lengthy, although I could. So Prabhupada, he came with no money, he had no backing whatsoever. Somehow he had the contact of a Mayavadi guru who was just exploiting the sentiments of Americans, kind of crusty older people on the Upper West Side of Manhattan who wanted to add yoga and Eastern philosophy as a little decoration to their fashionable mystique. And luckily, some young people from the burgeoning folk and beat scene, jazz scene downtown, met Prabhupada up there and said, "You got to come downtown. That's where it's really happening." And so and then having to walk from the yoga studio that this Mayavadi guru put him in, which was 4 avenue blocks, 3 more regular blocks, back and forth. If you walk that at a normal pace, that's like a half-hour walk or 25 minutes. And this is late October, November, December, January, February, March, all the way till mid-April, when he was able to go to the better situation, the Bowery, which is a whole discussion in and of itself. It was one of the coldest, snowiest. So everything that Prabhupada went through, it was like a whole year before 26 Second Avenue was founded, and then all kinds of miraculous things started happening. Prabhupada was composing the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam in this solitary room on the Upper West Side. If you go, you can still see the windows. He moved to his own place within the same building, which had very beautiful windows. Like, the building is like this, facing Columbus Avenue and West 72nd Street. And Prabhupada was there for 2 months. That's when his typewriter and his tape recorder was stolen. And by then, the young people invited him to come downtown, and he left that place. But all of those months, he had to walk back and forth that distance that I just described to take a proper bath and to cook a proper meal. If you look at the beginning, the diary, Prabhupada's diary, he kept a diary on the Jaladuta, and then while he was here, up until the 2nd or 3rd initiations in October, November 1966. So he's describing that period of having to walk back and forth. Sometimes I am troubled by night starvation, just 1 meal a day, like that. So, let that be a preamble to the class. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantas cha dritabrata namasyantas chamam bhaktya nitya yukta upashite. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. Srila Prabhupada writes, on Gaur Purnima Day, 1966, from 100 West 72nd Street, the devotees in Navadvip and Vrindavan are celebrating Lord Chaitanya's appearance day. But I am in New York without any devotee association. But I'm here on the order of my spiritual master, and I feel no inconvenience in that regard. The Mahatma purport cannot be manufactured by rubber stamping an ordinary man. The symptoms are described here. A Mahatma is always engaged in chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. The young people, the seekers, in that time, they saw right away through the impersonal yoga guru they made a joke. They said, he's just an uptown Swami. But when they met Srila Prabhupada, he's the real thing. Right away. Cannot be rubber stamped. The symptoms are that he's always engaged in chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. In one of those early talks that he was giving classes on the Upper West Side. Not even come down to the Bowery, what to speak of 26 Second Avenue. You had some early admirers, friendly people, and they were coming. And he said, you can see by my activities, I'm always reading, writing, doing something. I'm shopping, I'm cooking, I'm offering my food, and when I'm tired, I go to bed. Seems like very natural activities, but for Srila Prabhupada, he's completely absorbed in this is service to Krishna. He has no other business. He is always engaged in the glorification of the Lord. In other words, he is not an impersonalist. Srila Prabhupada, he came here to continue the mission of his spiritual master, who stood very strongly against this impersonal philosophy. And Srila Prabhupada we praise him with heart and soul. Obeisances unto you, O spiritual master. O servant of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, you are so kindly, so tolerantly, compassionately, mercifully teaching, preaching, spreading the message of Lord Chaitanya Dev, and saving. Saving also means defeating the Mayavad, but Krishna is more concerned with saving and uplifting the faithful than he is in taking care of the miscreants. That will happen automatically. But he's coming for pleasure meeting with his devotees. Krishna, the only thing Krishna wants is loving exchange. If we make that our focus, then Krishna accomplishes everything. That is a pure devotee. People, they're pious, they have religion, and on the basic stage, I want something from God. I want something to help me with my material life, some money, some fame, some influence, some aristocratic or charismatic or popular association or friends or associates. And higher than that is, I want to get free from the suffering of this material world, physical and mental. I want liberation. That's nice, that's better, but it's a far cry from loving devotional service with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Tivrena Bhakti Yogina, what is it? Yayatma Suprasidhati, unmotivated and uninterrupted. So kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya and saving these Western countries which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. When the question of glorification is there, one has to glorify the Supreme Lord, praising his holy name, his eternal form, his transcendental qualities, and his uncommon pastimes. One has to glorify all these things. Therefore, a Mahatma is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Chaitanya, widely renowned as a scholar in his youth, left only 8 verses of instruction. These supremely valuable, and he left the task of delineating the incredible, unlimited, and beautiful, and variegated Siddhanta of Gaudiya Vaishnavism to his subsequent disciples and followers, a task they are continuing to the present day. Srila Prabhupada revealed that Krishna asked me to leave Goloka Vrindavan and come to the spiritual and come down to this material world. And Prabhupada said, Lord Krishna asked him to do, he just mentioned one thing. He didn't say you should open temples, you should initiate disciples, you should travel over the world. He said, you simply go down to the world and you write your books. And I will take care of everything else. So Srila Prabhupada he had translated the second canto and other books, and when the first devotees, Hayagriva, Kirtananda, Brahmananda, Gargamuni, Satsvarupa, etc., they came upon Srila Prabhupada, and some of them had literary ability for typing and translating or editing. Prabhupada showed them his closet, and there were like bundles and bundles of manuscript. Said, wow, that's going to take a long time. And Prabhupada just kind of humorously said, it's enough to last you a lifetime. But no one know how to transcribe using a dictaphone. No one, first there wasn't a dictaphone to begin with. Then it was purchased, but who's going to do it? It was very tedious, and no one really. And all of a sudden, this young college-age student named Neil showed up. He's going to Antioch College. Antioch College is in Ohio. This is something like 400 or 500 miles away from New York City. How does he know that there's a Hare Krishna movement in the summer, fall of 1966? It wasn't popularized. And Subramanianda, who is the de facto temple president, his temple president office was the front windowsill of the storefront. And also he doubled as the security guard to make sure the Bowery bums wouldn't leach in, and then he would, in his wrestler's very strong body, would leach them back out. Said, yeah, well, I'm from Antioch College, and I'm taking a summer course to join a religion and write about my experience. So I figured I'd join you guys. Okay, what can you do? Do you know how to type? Oh, yeah, that's easy. How many words a minute? Oh, like 60, 70 words a minute. Do you know how to use a dictaphone? Oh, that's really easy. And they brought out all of Prabhupada's things, and they didn't even have they got like an orange crate. They had like one metal folding chair. They put a piece of wood on top of the orange crate. And this Neil just started typing and transcribing, and his 2-month summer course was over, and he had done everything up to date with Prabhupada, and he just left back to Antioch College or wherever, and he was never seen again. But, you know, the devotees, they just looked at each other. There's all these little miracles just surrounding Prabhupada. You wanted to be around him because just you come into him, it's like you're in like calm and peace, and everything always just turned out all right. You simply go down and write your books, and everything will be accomplished. The Mahatma is always engaged in different activities of devotional service as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing and chanting about Vishnu, not a demigod or a human being. This is devotion. So all of these, gurus and swamis, they make a movement, and they're like the one that everybody knows and that they're famous. But Prabhupada is the Hare Krishna movement. And Prabhupada wanted to, and effectively remain he wanted to put Krishna forward. But from our side, the devotees, we want to put Prabhupada forward. Because knowing about Prabhupada and what he's done, as Prabhupada is irresistible, we say was irresistible. You listen to the memories of Prabhupada's disciples, what attracted you most? They say so many things, but at the end of the day, Prabhupada's association was so irresistible. You just wanted to serve him, you wanted to please him, you wanted to be around him as much as you possibly could. Now, a fully self-realized pure devotee, their association is completely triumphant, conquering over time, space considerations, over the modes of nature, over this material world. We meet someone, we have a relationship in this world, and time, and even if it's a good one, if there's no problem or betrayal or some ulterior motive that just wrecks the thing, it's very, very nice. Time just kind of takes, and then I'm born at a certain date, my lifespan. You're born at a certain date, your lifespan. You live in a different place. I live in a different place. So things dwindle, they diminish. But the association of the pure devotee, what to speak of dwindling, it just increases more and more. This is the principle that Lord Chaitanya has spoken about, his Sankirtan movement, which is Golokera Premadan Harinam Sankirtan, the treasure of divine love from Goloka Vrindavan descending into this world. Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam, Pratipadam Purnatmitas Vardhanam, ever increasing ocean of transcendental bliss. Very good. It's the gift that keeps giving more and more and more. Prabhupada himself said, you have nothing to lose, you have everything to gain. In the material world, it's the opposite. You're certain to lose, and the gain, And the proof is in the pure devotee's life, their dedication to the order of their guru, which is to fulfill and just please the innermost heart of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the disciplic succession. Anantakoti Vaishnav, Brinda Ki Jai. So we take initiation into this line, and these devotees become our eternal family members. The Mahatma, this devotion, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, remembering him. Such a Mahatma has firm determination to achieve the ultimate end, the association of the Supreme Lord in any one of the 5 transcendental rasas. To achieve that success, he engages all his activities, mental, bodily, vocal, and everything, in the service of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. That is called full Krishna consciousness. So this place, ISKCON Los Angeles, Srila Prabhupada called this place his Western World Headquarters for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And this temple, this address, I believe 1970 is when the devotees established here. This is now 54 years. And this particular temple, this temple room, Srila Prabhupada is here, sitting in the exact same place. His quarters are here. So much incredible devotional service, incredible discipleship, devotees, disciples of His Divine Grace, fully in love with Him, and service rendered here in full sincerity. This place is just permeating with prema bhakti. It's so palpable and feelable that it is a great transcendental place of pilgrimage, for sure. When Maharaj Yudhishthira was being instructed by Narada Muni in the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, at one point Narada Muni is saying that all of the holy places associated with Krishna, they should be visited by those wishing to advance to the ultimate goal of life. And especially those places where pure devotees are there, engaged in pure devotional service. So there's Sanskrit in the verse for what Narada Muni is speaking, but Srila Prabhupada, he translates that Sanskrit and he writes, you can see, elaborate, this is in the word-for-word translation, not in the purport. Similarly, all the temples of ISKCON, where the deity is duly installed in worship, are the most select and best places, and anyone wishing to advance in spiritual life must visit these places. So those of you who live here, those of you who, this is your temple, these are your deities, you're very, very fortunate. Srila Prabhupada made this a very dear and very special place. So many great disciples of Srila Prabhupada have performed devotional service here with this same mood of and proper spirit of determination and dedication. And Srila Prabhupada, it's not that he alone is such a great Mahabhagavat personality, but by his intense devotion to spread this Krishna consciousness movement, he's created or brought forth many similarly determined personalities. And that opportunity for us is also to be such a personality. Shortly after Prabhupada established the temple here in 1970, actually Krishna was creating a situation. He was, and Prabhupada later realized, he was very happy to stay here and make this his world headquarters. And in a sense, never go back to India. But a situation was created that he felt being directed to go back to India. And then he realized, my spiritual master ordered me to preach in the English-speaking world, and I have done that. after only 4 years, 1966 to 1970. But now, what I want to do is to preach in India. And then he went back with 20 of his hand-picked dancing white elephants, his best American and European devotees, and they took India by storm. And this is just 23 years after independence, 1947, 1970, and many of the people who had lived through this very troubled time, the terrible rule of the British on India, which got worse towards the end. We know the history. And then the partition of India into Pakistan, and then the first prime minister decrying the religious sentiment of India. We will make the factory the new church. Struggling, impending old age, the problems with his spiritual master's institution, and the cooperation of his godbrothers. And Prabhupada tried very, very hard in India, seemingly not successful, but like his spiritual master, he was preaching to the higher class of society. And when Prabhupada came back to India, all of those people that had known him as a simple, humble, lone sadhu were so deeply impressed. One particular personality, Swami Bhaktivedanta, has gotten, I don't know if he used the word revenge, for all of the atrocity that the imperialists and the colonialists did to us, because he has conquered their young people and converted them to our eternal religion. Prabhupada, there was an airport press conference in London Heathrow, and one very challenging and disrespectful British reporter, "Why have you come here, sir? Why have you come to our country? We have our own culture. We have our own religion." So just see how Prabhupada just smacked the ball right over the wall, grand slam, and just like won the World Series immediately. Your people came to our country and forcibly stole anything and everything of value that you could find and get your hands on for over 200 years. But I have come to give you the greatest treasure which you forgot to take for free. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So he was questioning the devotees here in 1970, what should I do? And one of Prabhupada's early disciples, Dayananda Prabhu, along with his wife Nandarani, I believe, they opened up ISKCON Los Angeles. They were living in a small apartment in a not as good as this part of town. Anyway, it's a wonderful history. And so he's asking Dayananda, what should I do? And Dayananda, thinking, my spiritual master is asking me to give him advice? How am I? So he thought of like a crafty way to say something humble and satisfy Prabhupada, but at the same time not implicate himself in instructing his spiritual master. So he said, well, Srila Prabhupada, I think that you should do whatever you want to do. And Srila Prabhupada said, do whatever I want to do? I want to spread Krishna's holy name all over this planet. That's what I want to do. So just see the determination. So we can speak something about Srila Prabhupada's disciple, Ayendra Prabhu. Ayendra Prabhu joined this movement in 1973. He was living in Northern Virginia, 60 miles west of Washington, D.C. He grew up in a kind of countryside, farmland kind of area. He actually lived within viewing or within a stone's throw of the Manassas Civil War battlefield. And he described how he regularly felt and even saw the spirits of dead Civil War soldiers in this place. And his family were kind of beatnik, bluegrass, kind of funky kind of music folk, you know. You know, they were like into all types of avant-garde stuff in the 1950s. So Ayendra had a very foundational and strong musical ability, which we could say arguably helped him later in his devotional service. He was quite adept at all different types of activities, music, writing. He could do electrical work, carpentry. He was a real kind of handyman. It was interesting. He would do many things with his right hand, but at the same time, he preferred to write with his left hand. So he was ambidextrous. So he, at the age of 20, discovered devotees in Washington, D.C., and was instantly attracted, and especially to the Harinam that they were doing. And he ultimately joined just after meeting them. And at that time, chanting Harinam Sankirtan, going out in public, chanting Hare Krishna, was the mainstay of the Hare Krishna movement. Here in Los Angeles, there was the great famous Vishnu Jan Maharaj. Actually, there's a video, an old video, right here in between the end of the temple building and the parking lot. You could see the windows to the kitchen. I don't know if that's still a kitchen. But he's leading this incredible kirtan, and all the devotees are just like swooning in ecstasy, and then he leads them to an airport arrival of Srila Prabhupada, and just going out on Harinam Sankirtan. I meet Srila Prabhupada's disciples who tell me that I just followed the Pied Piper of Vishnu Jan Swami back to the temple, and I never left. So that was Indra. And ultimately, later on, Indra became associated with Vishnu Jan Maharaj when he was on the Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan party. And just to give an example of determination transferred from spiritual master to disciple to a younger godbrother, Indra Prabhu was also very much attracted to deity worship because he was an artist. He was, he had a fashion sense, he had a contour sense. Actually, he was an artist. He could paint beautiful paintings too. So at that time, Radha Damodar, who are now in Gita Nagari, were the presiding deity of the Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan party, which had many different buses. I believe they had 4 or 6 Gorni Thai, so big brass deities. One is in New York and Long Island. Anyway, and so Vishnu Jan Maharaj wanted Indra to join Radha Damodar and be their full-time pujari. 6 offerings, aratiks, bathing, dressing, everything. You can help turn the phone off? Okay. So, at that time, it was the, let's say, spiritual ego abhiman of everyone on Radha Damodar to be, one of Prabhupada's elite book distributors, So he knew that if he took this service, then he wouldn't be able to go out on books as much or practically at all. And so he said to Vishnu Jan Maharaj, well, Maharaj, I'd like to, but. And Vishnu Jan Maharaj said to Indra, never say you want to be doing something, because if you really wanted to be doing something, you'd be doing it. And it hit Indra just like an epiphany, like, wow, that is so cool. And he used that in his determination for the rest of his life. So as ISKCON kind of went after Prabhupada's departure, book distribution became minimized and in some places even forgotten, and devotees were like sent out to collect money with first devotee record albums, and then it turned into non-devotional paraphernalia. We could tell you all kinds of horror stories, I survived, the House of Horrors. Yay! So Indra Prabhu, he saw this as a terrible anomaly, and he said, the buck stops here. Who was it? There was a U.S. president, Harry Truman. The buck stops here, all the political runaround. I'll take care of it. I take responsibility. That this is when Indra Das redirects his energies, and as he said later on, years later, to put Harinam Sankirtan back into its rightful place of dignity in the forefront of this movement, which is absolutely essential for the proper growth of this movement. Lord Chaitanya said in Shishashtangam verse 1, this chanting, this Sankirtan movement awakens all varieties of devotional service. to spread this movement all over the world. We can't all just, everyone, 100% of us, just be on Harinam Sankirtan in public all the time. There's so much that needs to be done. And we all have different natures, proclivities, talents, destinies. What is the will of the Lord for our life? But Harinam Sankirtan is the rallying point that we all come together on. And back in those days, there was the Maha Saturday night Harinam Sankirtan. Here we're in the Monday to Friday, everybody works, they have the weekend, and Sunday I got to do my laundry and go to bed early. But Saturday night, one more Saturday night, that's when everybody comes out and everybody's in a good mood. So where is your location where everybody comes to, so to speak, have a good time, party? Okay, they're looking for the real party with Lord Chaitanya. If one actually wants to enter into the dancing party of Radha and Krishna, then one must get the mercy of Gaur Nitai first. So Prabhupada writes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, no one will refuse to take part in a function where singing, dancing, and refreshment are administered, and everyone will feel the accompanying benefit and happiness of that. So if you go out Harinam, and in ecstasy, not like, oh, I got to do this. When is it going to be over, you know? This Sankirtan movement is the life and soul of all transcendental knowledge. Prabhupada told one of his leaders that the book distribution is to convince everyone to join Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement and chant and dance in ecstasy. So to help us to chant and dance in ecstasy, we read the books, but the books are the recorded ecstasies, Srila Prabhupada said, of his relationship with Krishna. He would tell Tashruti Kirti, read the Krishna book. Where? Anywhere. And Prabhupada would say, I did not write these books. Lord Krishna has written these books. Both go on, so hand in hand. So Ayendra Prabhu, he arrived in New York City in 1981. Radha Damodar had kind of tried to go on a little bit a few years after Srila Prabhupada left, but it kind of, everybody went their own way. So Ayendra Prabhu, he made a plan, I'm going to go to India and I'm going to make a traveling vehicle and I'll travel around India doing Harinam Sankirtan. So he came to New York City and he was going to get his ticket, New York, Delhi. And then when he saw what was going on in New York City, and this is just such good fortune for all of us that he was inspired, because later on, I'm never leaving Vrindavan. But he did say, pardon me, Los Angelians, that if you have to leave Vrindavan, there's only one other place to go, New York City. Anyway, but Prabhupada started the movement there, that's one thing, and also everyone is so close. And as Prabhupada said of Vrindavan, sometimes said, why, we used to stand up, chant and dance, why are you all sitting down? So in Vrindavan they're sitting down, because the way Prabhupada engineered the temple, people come in, they pay obeisances to Guru, to Srila Prabhupada, just like here, to Guru Gauranga, then in Vrindavan, Krishna Balaram, to show to the world, to teach the world that Krishna and Balaram have appeared in this age of Kali as Gaur Nitai, and get their combined mercy, then one can approach Radha Shyamasundar and their attendant Sakis and Manjaris and enter into the Madhurya Ras, if that is your desire. So everyone is directed to walk that way, and the Kirtan Mandali, boom, right in the center. Everybody does the walking, but you get the benefit of traveling everywhere because they come to you. And Prabhupada called this not lazy man. Temple managers must strictly disallow useless clubs of lazy and crazy men who are useless for all practical purposes. They must be strictly, Prabhupada writes that. So not lazy man, lazy, intelligent preacher's paradise. So New York City is like that also. In the parks, in the warm weather, we could have as many as 10 to 20,000 people walk past us in a day. And in the wintertime, when we're in the subways, double or even triple that. How many people hearing the holy name? Getting devotee association, Srila Prabhupada's books. So Einar was greatly attracted to New York City. And he was there for 5 years. In the beginning, we were staying in a place just north of the Times Square Theater District, 54th Street and 7th Avenue, which goes downhill. You see all the lights and the hot New Year's Eve ball and everything, all the glitter and glitz. So you just come out of the building, and he had like a hand cart with a mouse amplifier and a few other basic preaching tools. Just roll right down into Times Square. And we're right there in Midtown Manhattan, Rockefeller Center, Empire, everything. But then later, we moved to Brooklyn, where we are presently, and he got a box truck, which is, what's the step up from a van and less than a truck? It's a box truck, and he reconverted it by his own labor into a beautiful North Indian architectural wonder. And he would go to all different places around the city and open it up. He had very, very sophisticated arrangement, and he always had a huge horseshoe of people around him all day long. He would come at 8 o'clock or 7:30 in the morning, or even earlier. He wanted to ride the wave, like go surfing, ride the waves. The rush hour, everybody comes in. Then there's a lunch break, people come out, and then be there for the blowout, for the going home at 5 o'clock. And on Friday and Saturday night, you go to where everybody parties, downtown. I think they even had a song in the 60s, downtown, that's where I'm going. So everybody, all the opulent people live uptown, but downtown, East Village and West Village, that's where everybody goes. So there's the West 4th Street subway station, and it's like the gateway to Greenwich Village. And Andrew would put his truck there, and he would stay there rocking Friday, Saturday night till 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30, and roll that thing back over the Manhattan Bridge in time for Mangal Arati. It was such an incredible program. But anyway, I think we're about running out of time. We should stop. But he was inspired circumstances. And he left New York in the beginning of 1986. He situated himself in Vrindavan and founded in that very wonderful year, Lord Chaitanya's 500th appearance anniversary year, on Ram Vijay Utsav, some 6 months later in October, the victory over Ravana and Lanka Day for Lord Ramachandra, he founded the 24-hour kirtan. And the rest, as they say, is history. And just see, he, by his pure service to Srila Prabhupada to fulfill that desire, how he has changed the world just by staying in that one place, living in Vrindavan in right way. Prabhupada said, if some of my disciples could live in Vrindavan as real Goswamis, I can take over the entire world. Just like the 6 Goswamis. They stayed in one place. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, at the end of his stay on this planet, he was ordered or instructed by Lord Jagannath to situate himself near the samadhi of Haridas Thakur, which is near Tota Gopinath, where Lord Chaitanya himself disappeared, the Chatak Parvat sand dunes, which are the replica of Govardhan Hill in Jagannath Puri. And you simply chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra for the rest of your life, because by so doing, you will purify, deliver the entire universe. So chanting Hare Krishna is very, very powerful. More that you practice, sadhana leads to siddha, leads to perfection. Krishna will invest in you. He has invested all his transcendental potencies in the chanting of the holy name. So we should aspire, we should make our desire, not for anything of this temporary world, gross or subtle, but for the highest aim of pleasing Krishna, because ye prashade pure sarva asha, that is the fulfillment of our innermost heart's desire, beyond what we could ever even imagine or understand. Thank you all very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Shri Shri Rukmini Dwarkadish Nu Dwarkadam Nitai Gaur Premanandi Haribol. Hare Krishna. I'm just a regular guy who has enough common sense to stop at the red light. I haven't done anything extraordinary. I'm just trying to do what I'm supposed to do. That's it.